Good morning, everybody. Today is Tuesday, July 22nd, approximately 10:30 a.m. My name is Michael Roybal with IT Colorado, and today we are going to be talking about vendor access management. Most businesses today, they rely on third-party vendors to function efficiently. So whether it's an IT provider like us, maybe your bookkeeper, your payroll processor, or some sort of inventory management platform, these partners on the outside often need access to your system so that they can deliver services for you. But here's the part that's often overlooked. Every door that you open for a vendor is also a potential doorway for a cyber attack. So let me give you a quick scenario. A manufacturing company, for example, hires a contractor to manage part of their production scheduling software. So the vendor is given remote access. Let's fast forward 6 months and the contractor has long completed the job, but their login still works. And worse, that login is now being used from overseas at 2 a.m. on a Sunday. So this isn't hypothetical. Vendor-related breaches are increasingly common and they are very devastating. Attackers target smaller organizations through trusted vendors precisely because it works. And in some cases, attackers don't even need to hack your network. They just need to compromise someone you've already let in. So unfortunately, too many businesses lack a formal offboarding process for vendors. Logins linger, access remains, and the door is left wide open. So if that access isn't audited, monitored, or even terminated, you are trusting someone else's risk profile with your most sensitive systems. So vendor access management is the process of controlling, monitoring, and then reviewing the access that you give to these external vendors. It's not just about setting up a user account. It's about managing the life cycle of that access from the moment it's granted until it's removed. And so why is this necessary? And the reason is because these unmanaged vendor access is one of the most common and least visible threats in the cybersecurity landscape. You may trust that your vendors are secure, but trust isn't a strategy. And for CPAs and bookkeepers, vendor access often means outsourced IT support, remote tax software assistance, or even integrations with financial platforms. These vendors frequently request administrative access and can become persistent entry points if it's not properly managed. In manufacturing, vendor access may include equipment diagnostics or software updates, even supply chain integrations for a third-party software program, or maybe even some facility management tools. And many of these things, they require network-level access or specialized credentials, which often go unchecked for years. So vendor access management, it means documenting who has access, justifying that access, and then limiting it by scope and by time, and then continuously validating the necessity of it. So let's be clear, vendor access isn't a theoretical risk, it's an active threat. And it has, it has led to real world breaches. In 2021, attackers used a compromised vendor account to breach a law firm and steal sensitive client records. In 2023, a mid-sized manufacturer suffered a ransomware attack traced back to an HVAC service provider who reused weak credentials. And these aren't edge cases. They're examples of what happened when vendor access isn't managed properly. And here's what makes it especially risky. Vendors often have elevated privileges. Their security posture may be weaker than yours. Their access may persist long after it's needed. And so what this means is that your cybersecurity is only as strong as the weakest third party with access to your systems. For industries that handle financial data or operate on tight production timelines, this kind of exposure can be catastrophic. Moreover, compliance frameworks like GLBA, SOX, and CMMC are increasingly requiring detailed access reviews, including third-party oversight. So if you're audited and you can't demonstrate control over vendor access, that's a regulatory risk as well. So it all starts with visibility, and you need to know who your vendors are, what systems they can touch, and whether that access is still necessary. Many businesses are shocked to discover dormant accounts or blanket permissions that haven't been questioned in years. Then there's the question of scope. Vendor access should always align with a specific purpose. So if someone only needs access to a reporting module, they shouldn't be able to make system-wide changes. This principle of least privilege protects you even if something goes wrong. And then time is another factor. So temporary projects shouldn't result in permanent access. Once the job is done, credentials should be disabled or removed entirely. And this is where having an access expiration policy or manual deactivation procedure is critical. So even with the right access controls in place, you still need awareness. Monitoring and logging help you see what vendors are doing and when they're doing it and from where it's happening. It also gives you a chance to spot any anomalies before they become breaches. And then let's not overlook authentication. Multi-factor authentication should be mandatory for any third party that is accessing your systems remotely. It's a simple control that can block the majority of credential-based attacks, which is the way most of these things do come through. And most importantly, the vendor access management, it's not a one-time fix. It's a recurring responsibility. Always incorporating it into your regular cybersecurity risk assessments. It ensures that you're not relying on outdated assumptions about who can get in. And this isn't just about locking the doors. It's about knowing who has the keys. How are they using them and when to change the locks. So if you haven't formally reviewed your vendor access in the past 6 months, it's time. And not knowing who has access is no longer acceptable. It's not acceptable to your clients, not to the regulators, and definitely not to your bottom line. So this is where we come in. Through a structured cybersecurity risk assessment, we can identify all third-party accounts in your environment, gaps in access controls, unused or expired credentials, missed opportunities for segmentation or privilege reduction. We can then help you build a tailored vendor access management plan that's aligned to your industry or your compliance requirements and your operational needs. The goal isn't to just shut vendors out, it's to let them in responsibly. So if you're ready to gain control over your third-party risk, you can start by booking a call with us at itcolorado.com/book-a-call. The address is going down there, scrolling across the screen. And then let's secure the business relationships that you rely on day to day. It's very important to keep everything safe and secure, starting with the least privileged access that's out there. Hey, I appreciate you joining me and letting me speak here for the last 10 minutes talking about this. Just have a great day. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. Thank you.